history.
We'll find out later that
Yeah, it's on our Easter Books P-Town Facebook page.
Nice.
Is the live stream, and I don't know. Do I have that hooked up to the Wi-Fi? Your Wi-Fi, or is it?
It's hooked up to something.
Okay. Okay.
It's working.
Okay. Well, I want to welcome everybody here on the last day of this holiday weekend here in the U.S. and in Provincetown. And once again, we're here this week or tonight with our book event at the library, part of our Provincetown Library East End Books series. I'll call it mini-series this summer. We're traveling around Provincetown for events, which is a good way of reminding everybody this summer when you're coming to one of our book events to look at the event page to see where it is, because the beautiful new public park is being constructed, so we're not behind the store at the beach, but we'll be, a lot of events are at this library, thanks to Amy Raff. We also have events at Fine Arts Work Center, 20 Summers, Provincetown Art Society, WOMR, and Schoolhouse Gallery. So you'll see those noted there. Our next event, the next event actually is at our Boston store, and that's Shadow Men with James Polchin. It's an amazing book. And James has been here a lot. His partner is Greg Salvatore, the wonderful painter who has a beautiful gallery right near the library here. And he will be there in Boston as well. So that's our next event. And I think the next Provincetown event is, I don't have my cheat sheet with me. It's coming up. Let's see. I think that's going to be, yes, it's Murder in Hollywood. I think that's with Casey Sherman, the Lana Turner book. It's really fantastic. And then you'll see a lot of things. Okay, so people always ask at this point, as we're hitting 4th of July, what events do you get your act together quickly because the tickets are almost gone? Okay, that would be the Brad Gooch event, July 26th, with an amazing new book, Radiant, about the life of Keith Haring. And also the Hebridean Baker event during Bear Week. He's flying in again from Scotland, and that's the Provincetown Art Society, almost sold out. Doris Kearns Goodwin on August 8th. And then I think tickets are going very fast. There's not many left, but you can still get them for August 23rd at the Fine Arts Work Center. I have Michael Cunningham, Ben Shattuck, and in the audience, but Jenny Slate. So those are the things. Go on our website, and we'll see you there. We will have books available for sale, and there will be a book signing afterwards, and then we'll do our best when signed copies went out to try to get some more. I don't know, does Shabby House Press do book plates, signed book plates, or anything like that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm working on actually getting the books. Lucy, I might have to come stay with you in France.
Sort it out.
I can try to get the books signed. I think I can force myself to get on the plane and come and do that. But this ought to say that we're really excited to have two of the authors, two of the three from Shabby House Press here with us. It's a wonderful small press, and small presses have a special place in my heart. And I, for years, was the publisher of Anhinga Press, which is mainly poetry in the U.S. And so this is wonderful. And they have full distribution availability. So hopefully, if you're watching now or later, you'll order the books on our website. But because they're distributed with Ingram, you can get them at most indie bookstores. They have an ABA website, and they can order the books. So any of your friends, they can get them, and they're in the system. So that's really exciting. Now, I'm just going to introduce you to Lucy Shaw, and who is here and is the publisher of the press. And I'm very sorry. I'm going to just say a shout out for multiple reasons, but I'm only going to say one related to you. I'm sorry that my good friend British Andrew is not here, because his fellow Brit is here. I know he would enjoy meeting you, and I think there's some others you want to meet as well. But in any event, we're very excited to have you here, and very excited to hear. And I think you will be reading, because Caroline is not well, is sick, so you will be standing in and reading some excerpts. Yeah. Okay. And I'll leave it to Lucy to give the wonderful introductions of these fantastic authors. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jess, for the wonderful introduction, and thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for watching. My name is Lucy K. Shaw, and I am the publisher of Shabby Dollhouse. And I wasn't supposed to be in this event, but unfortunately Caroline couldn't make it, so now I am, and I'm in the middle of it. And I wasn't expecting that, but that's okay. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about Shabby Dollhouse, and we're going to read from all of the books. We're going to have a little bit of conversation, and hopefully you'll get an idea of what we're doing and what each individual book is about over the course of the next few minutes or so. Shabby Dollhouse started as an online journal in 2012. I just published like short poems and stories and artwork and stuff like that. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I figured out how to publish books, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And I've been very fortunate to be able to publish these guys and Caroline and various other people. And now that we're on this trajectory of publishing books, it's like very exciting and very fulfilling. And we basically spend all of our time, I spend all of my time doing that. So I guess I'm going to I would like to ask you guys to introduce yourselves, because that just makes sense. So this is Kristen.
Hi everybody, I'm Kristen Felicetti. I grew up in Rochester, New York, which is cool because some of my friends from Rochester, New York are here tonight. And as are my parents, who now live on Cape Cod in Katuitt. I lived in New York for a long time, where I did the literary magazine, The Bushwick Review, and but this is my first book, Log Off. It's about a girl. Did anybody ever use LiveJournal growing up or know about LiveJournal?
Yes.
Nice. Good. So this is about a 16-year-old girl in the early 2000s. She's kind of like lonely. And so she starts a LiveJournal to sort of connect with people online, while at the same time a bunch of things kind of happen in her offline life.
Yep. And this is Oscar.
Hi, I'm Oscar as well. I'm from Paris, France. I am a writer and translator. I wrote 2 books. This is my second book. My first book was called Teen Surfka. It was on Metatron Press in 2015, and this is called The Island. It's on Shabby Dollhouse Press, I guess. And it just came out. Am I supposed to say something else?
Yeah, what the book is about.
Oh. I wrote it. It's a 125-page haiku. I wrote it when I was turning 33, and I was upset about that. So it's about like not wanting to like age, and also about yoga and like trying to avoid that aging, that is, and also about trying to chase an impossible, always already irretrievable bisexual beach paradise of the mind.
And
I like it.
I'm the person who's going to talk about this book, which is called The Moan Wilds. It's by Caroline Rayner. It's a book-length poem. This was published last summer, and I guess I'll read one of the blurbs because that's easier than me describing it off the top of my head. But it says, steeped in the hybrid and maximalist tradition of C.D. Wright, Bernadette Mayer, and Alice Notley, The Moan Wilds nevertheless forges a path so inimitable it becomes the very thumbprint of its author, which to me is the crowning achievement of any book worth its salt. Here Rayner has produced an indelible and unforgettable voice full of heart, intelligence, hunger, and wildness that shakes us into new hallucinatory order. In other words, it's fucking awesome. That was Ocean's Young. And the other description that we use a lot to describe this book is that it's about a horny Southern girl. So, but yeah, we're going to start by reading from all of the books, I think. Kristen's going to start us off, and just because that way you'll know what we're talking about, I think that makes the most sense. So, yeah, Kristen will read, then Oscar will read, and then I'll read a little bit too.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I'm going to read from 3 different sections. The first one's just the first page of the book, so you don't need any context. Tuesday, September 5th, 2000, 9:23 p.m. Hello, people of the internet. Let it be known that today, 95Y2K, my legal guardian Brian finally joined the modern web and connected our computer to the great World Wide Web. I told him I needed the internet for school, which was true, but my primary motivator was getting a live journal. No way could I start one at the library. Whenever I logged on, there was always some old lady librarian hovering around, waiting for the inevitable moment I surfed my way to a big old porn site or downloaded some malicious virus that would crash the entire public computer system. But now I've made an account, and from the comfort and privacy of my own home. Speaking of privacy, I don't want people from my real life reading this, especially people from school. I won't be using people's real last names, and maybe I'll even change people's first ones if they're too unique. Though I guess my own first name is unique, and I can't imagine calling myself anything else. Screw it, I'm calling everyone by their real first names. I should change people's last names and names of places at my own discretion. Whatever, I don't even know why I'm so concerned. The only 4 people who are going to read this are my friends from the Fiona Apple mailing list. Hi! That I added to my friends list here. Tomorrow is the start of junior year. I can never sleep the night before the first day of school because everything has so much potential to be magical and changed. By day 3 or 4, it will all have dulled into the same old routine, but I live for that first day or two where everything's sheer unfamiliarity radiates a glow of great possibility. Current mood, excited. Current music, Ben Folds 5, Jackson Cannery. So the next section, so she makes some new friends in like a friend group, and thought read some of the friends sections, and some friends that I grew up with are here and helped inspire the book. And this section involves Alora, the main character. She is making a election day video with her friends Alice and Tiff, and so keep in mind the time period. Sunday, October 15th, 2000, 1:44 p.m. Oh wait, hold on, that's not the right section, my bad. Tuesday, October 10th, 2000, 10:59 p.m. I've been so caught up in the election that sometimes I forget I don't actually get to vote next month. Mrs. Ross starts every class with updates from the Bush-Gore race. Then she inevitably rants how she must return to teaching us towards the AP US History exam and says something like, "And now back to the Gilded Age," while yawning dramatically. Sometimes she'll even bang her head in frustration against the podium, which I think is pretty inspired. I'm sorry I wrote that Mrs. Ross looked like a witch before. She still does, but now I mean witch in like a cool way because Mrs. Ross is awesome. Compare her history teaching to Mr. Greenwell's last year. On the first day of class, he had us write in the board the events in our lifetime that would make the history books. We wrote things like Columbine or Monica Lewinsky, only to have him cross them off one by one and say, no, none of these things would be big enough to make world history. I'd written Monica Lewinsky, and I still think Bill Clinton being one of only 2 presidents to be impeached will make the damn history books. But honestly, the whole activity pissed me off because he'd obviously done it to make the whole class feel foolish. Sorry, Mr. Greenwald, that we weren't alive during an exciting period of time like you. Please tell us again how you lived through the 1960s, where the Vietnam War was happening, and the Civil Rights Movement, and everybody important was getting assassinated left and right, and how comparably we're just a bunch of young morons living in a cushy time when nothing's happening. Mrs. Ross doesn't condescend like that. She said there's no point in teaching us American history if we don't also engage with the history that's being made right now, today. This week's study group project was to make campaign videos for either Gore or Bush. We were filming it outside because the exterior of Alice's nice house made a good background, but we were stuck on a script. It's hard to come up with enthusiastic things to say about Gore, I said. Yeah, I feel like we should make him cool somehow, and I don't know how to do that, Tiff said. He's not cool. He's the lesser of 2 evils, essentially, Alice said. What if we made a negative ad against Bush instead, I suggested. Like the examples Mrs. Ross showed us? Didn't she say those were more effective anyway? Good call. Then all we have to do is say, vote Al Gore at the end, Tiff said. Once we committed to the anti-W direction, we got some momentum going. It's so much easier to say mean things. Greg, Alex's stepdad, pulled in the driveway and rolled down the window of his BMW. Hello, he said. What are you gals filming? Campaign video for Al Gore? Don't you mean Al Bohr? He said, and hit the accelerator to pull into their 3-car garage. Wow, good one, Alice said. Mom and Greg are voting for Bush, obviously. My parents are too, Tiff said. Well, my dad is, and my mom follows whatever my dad does. My mom said she thought he was cute, Alice said. And I was like, really, Mom? You're voting for him because he's cute, not his campaign platform or the issues? She also said he has a nice family. She went on and on about how she loves Laura Bush and his mom, Barbara Bush. And I was like, Mom, having a nice family is not a campaign issue either. Whoa, say that again, I said, for the video. She repeated it, and when we started recording, Tiff sighed and asked, when do you think we'll turn into assholes? What do you mean, Alice said. I mean, were your parents always conservative Republicans? I don't know, probably. I feel like Greg was an asshole from day one. Mine weren't. My dad used to live in Greenwich Village and protest the Vietnam War, and my mom has tons of books in her office that she used to read. She wanted to write a novel when she was in college. Now she just reads beach reads, if she reads at all. Let's never let that happen to us, I said. Word, Tiff said. What bad thing do you think we should say about Bush next? Current music, Paranoid, Android by Radiohead. All right, now at the part that before. Sunday, October 15th, 2000, 1:44 p.m. This is with the wider group of friends. There was a movie night at Alice's, and the whole lunch table went. Me, Alice, Tiff, Mal, Christopher, and Deb. Mike, too. We took 2 cars to Blockbuster, and we raced all the way there. I rode with Christopher and Deb, the other 4 with Mike. Christopher crossed a double line to accelerate ahead of Mike's car, while Deb flashed what looked like a gang symbol at them. Don't do that, Christopher said. You're an embarrassment to the other occupants of this vehicle. Drive, bitch, Deb said. We beat Mike's car to Blockbuster. We spent over an hour there because no one could agree on a movie. Finally, the group settled on Fight Club, which was a movie Mike liked, and he wanted Alice to see, and I wanted to see it too. It was really good. Edward Norton is cute, and I get the references some of you have been making on your live journals now. I am Jack's raging bile duct. I am Jack's complete lack of surprise. The surprise twist at the end was pretty silly, but I liked the last shot, where the narrator and Marla Singer are holding hands as the buildings explode. Mike put his arm around Alice during that part, and I caught her pleased smile. Afterwards, we analyzed specific scenes and debated their meaning. Then, during a quiet moment, Alice nudged Tiff and said, Do it now. Stop, Tiff whined. Okay. She rocked back and forth. Yo, so there's something me and Mal want to tell everybody? Mal sat up and edged closer to her. They had been sitting next to each other for the entire movie. Me and Mal, Tiff said. We're dating? We're a couple? No one said anything until Deb broke the silence and said, Lesbians, nice. He reached out to Tiff for a high five. Alice shot him an ice-cold death stare, but Tiff high-fived him back. We've been secretly dating since the summer, Mal said. Yeah, so we thought you guys should know, Tiff said. I don't expect any of you to be weird about it, but I want to make sure we're cool. This was mostly addressed to me, Deb, and Christopher, since Alice clearly already knew, and I assumed she had told Mike. It's totally cool, I said. It's possible I overdid it with an excessively enthusiastic tone of voice and smile. Mal gave me a weird look. I figured, Tiff said. She turned to Christopher. I mean, you're gay too, right? Tiff, Alice yelled. You can't just ask that. Sorry. Tiff put up her hands. My bad. You don't have to say. It's fine, Christopher sighed. Yes, like the greatest humans in history, I am a homosexual. Everyone returned to talking about Fight Club. My mind drifted to its usual fog. When it was time to go home, I walked upstairs from the basement and saw Alice's mom and Greg cuddled together on the couch watching You've Got Mail. I felt smug about how we had watched a cooler movie. God, adults were so dead and boring. Until recently, everything gay felt abstract, relegated to Ellen DeGeneres or Melissa Etheridge or artsy people who lived in New York City. Now it's immediate. On LiveJournal, many of you talk about being gay or bi or all over the rainbow spectrum. And now one of my friends is a lesbian, and presumably having lesbian sex. I wonder what the bases are for lesbian sex. I feel I only understood what the bases were for straight sex a couple of years ago, and it still seems up for debate, depending on who you're talking to. Third base was below the belt, but a blowjob seems like a huge jump from a hand job. Shouldn't there be a shortstop or something? Sorry, Mom and Dad. Not that I would know. I'm 16 and I've never even kissed anybody. This is horrifying. I feel this is becoming more and more obvious in my conversations about dating with Alice and Tiff and the others. I've fallen hopelessly behind the sexual experience of my peers, and it now seems impossible to catch up. Not everyone my age has had sex yet, but most people my age have at least kissed someone, and many of them back in middle school. I'm starting to think it was a huge mistake spending all these nights and weekends at the library. Not true. I would have been better off going to church. No, seriously, everyone at school who talks about going to church and having church friends is basically bragging about having a wider dating pool. I've also fantasized about being rich and going to a sleepaway summer camp. I'm not an outdoors person, and the lack of solitude would have been my personal hell. Would have been worth enduring if I could have come back with one anecdote of a sexual escapade. Also, please note this is my first locked friends-only entry. Since it discusses other people's sexualities and details of their sexual lives, I'm taking an extra step to make sure it's not public or discoverable by anyone from my real life. Current music, Ani DeFranco, as is.
Very nice. And now we're going to have a reading from Oscar Dota.
All right. So you are. Ukrainian flag. Grinder bio, nice. Autoerotic lack of punctuality, time bender, that's me. Casting off webs in my wake. The constellation of cocks drawn across the sky. Shooting stars come streaks against the black firmament. I am a nebula. Anarchia nervosa. So thin it implodes, adorn my body with it. Balefire river. It is my 33rd spring. My God. It's okay? Usually I hate it, but this spring is giving threatening and slutty hot. The word man inspires only ire and pity in me. But I'm sick to death of poems where they just invent new quirky genders. The man from across the street has a dog who barks like it wants to rip my guts out into its mouth. And part of me is like, yes, bitch. Go for it. Please, just relieve me of this meat sack. Core me insides out. Trim me down to ivory. My new theory on tipping. It's BDSM. It's like when I was a sailor. People would pay for the privilege to ride with us a few days, learn the ropes of how to wash the galleys and heads, scrubbing on their knees, worshipping our working ways. What I mean is we all need a farm boy to be slavish towards, you see. I love my own objection. A lot of my friends are saying they just want to write things for their friends, which I can relate to, yes. I want to speak to my friends in a secret voice, a language outside language, straight from the void/womb we all relate to. But what about trying to bring the face of God, demonic, tearing its way back through the fabric of reality, tear down the scaffold, unveil the ugly parts too, you know? I feel I haven't felt a real feeling in years. I'm trying to get at something so obvious, yet out of my reach. But my best thoughts I forget immediately. Flaming trash heap of my mind. Time to face the facts. Organic nut butters suck. Sometimes expensive things are just worse, and that's that. I guess what is key is to always remember there is an island of hopes and dreams, where the clouds look like pictures of clouds on bright days, where the coconuts taste like how you'd want them to, where death is on pause, where strangers hold hands and smile, where they lounge and bathe, a fortress of frolicking. Skipping, infinite wrath and despair. Something I wanted tattooed on my ass for years? Well, I'm 33 and all my friends are getting divorced or married or pregnant. Good luck, I guess. Cookies for breakfast because I just don't give a fuck. Emo tornado. The chestnut blossoms are out and they are making me sneeze obnoxiously loud. It's a condition my wife calls my attention-seeking disorder. This is how I know it is my fucking birthday. Jesus, your conniption fit. April in Paris. Arpeggios of feeling. That was like the beginning of the book. Now I'm going to skip ahead. All my friends come up to visit finally. We put on a play, but I am too distracted and spend the whole time yearning for an island where boys run, obsessed with this quiet devastation of my invention, moisturizing mournfully. I dream of a rave at the end of the rainbow. Moon, beach, peach orgy. Lush as fuck, but if I went, I'd spoil the dream, right? That's the thing with the island. It recedes again, forever moving away. The island, of course, is not real. The construct of imagination. It's not like I've never been, but there's a difference between how I represent it in my mind's eye and how things actually are. Do I have to spell it out for you, baby, like crass jokes at drag shows, not an apotheosis in aquamarine? So maybe best it recedes and I'll learn to love the reversed prism of it in rearview mirrors. So we go to the beach, but swimming is banned, and if that's not the Frenchest thing, I watch two boys horse around in the sand, the blonde joke humping his friend, clearly in love, parasols flap, birds screech at them. There is an architecture. I find the perfect denim jacket. but it has no pockets. That's life. I still buy it anyway. The heat wave never materializes. The cool mist machines just dance alone in gray air. That's life. I apply for what I think will be salvation. Read a yoga camp. A different island, I guess. I'm rejected. That's the crumbling of mountains. Melting ice cream cone of my tiny little mind. What new life to lead? What new idol can I throw myself at now to receive the voice of prophets? I just need one kick to go on reaffirming that the space beyond hands is also part of the hands. So set my life on fire with sporty street poet wear immediately. Petrichor knuckle tats. Oh well, it almost works. It's true that poetry is a vow of poverty. That's why it's so middle class. Sing to me, O muse. Slam me into the counters. Seppuku, baby. Victorian drama queen? It's my damn birthday. The hell does it matter if I speak in some voice? I've got closets and closets all the way down, babe. All smoke and masks that mask masks. All scene adjacent, all poet influencer. All class enemy. I'd become sure the Magic 8 Ball was speaking the truth to me in secret, staked my life on it. It had told me I'd get in, but lied to me? Now another island's denied, and I'm all shock, horror. So I go to my sports app, sign up for a class called Self-Realization, 45 minutes, and eat noodles with my hands straight out of the fridge. Then start looking into new life escape valves stat. Half Dora the Explorer, half vampire slut. No, I don't want to be like this, but purity is so goddamn tedious, and not an option. So I'm feeling murderous as hell, all cropped up out in the supermarket's fancy hummus aisle. That city's for you, baby. Don't ever show me a man, I'll just throw up. When did I become this fountain of bitterness? Christ, rid me of this PhD in grudge holding. Sometimes all I need is a screw straight in one ear and out the other to radiate tendrils of kindness, scars of love, Aphrodite in shell style. Forget a poem. I want waterfalls of rocks to be possessed by. Skewer me like Sebastian, who doesn't love ruins of interiority. Pull me apart. Make floating shards of this body, my stretching mantra. Wrist brace, but make it fashion, to show I suffer. Oh, I'm so very fragile. Who will hold my hand? Should I stop or should I do the end?
Yeah.
I'll do the end, if that's okay. Thank you. What we want summer. Dirty bare feet in the grass, peach juice-drenched bodies, okay? So take me to church. Melt me in emerald fire. Worship is a bad metaphor for sex because it's just not that deep. Like my voice isn't. It's twang, hopelessly lacking in authority. But if you listen, baby, I'll make it shake the sky out for memories of my new friend, running naked bearded hysteria into the sea foam, screaming, "This is paradise, bro, come on." Splashing wildly, which would be fine, but I saw the black glint of space in the pits he calls eyes. Vortexes in the sand. I mean, how could you not love the ones who know that it's out from the depths that we call to you, O moon? Song of Asinaya. Your Messiah complex looks great in the compest, bend me into new horizons. Gaslit as green flash, we never saw what happened in that goddamn rearview mirror, but honestly, who cares about another phantasm in the grand scheme of this vast metempsychotic psychosis of ours? So don't you worry, baby. Soon we will get to the island of hopes and dreams. Yes, heaven on earth is coming for you and me. No, not today, no, but not yet, but soon. Yes, so soon. We have been prepping the body, prepping the mind all year. We're ready and it's coming for us. Yes, the long-awaited time to frolic, have respite is coming. No, we won't be too old, not yet. The time will be just right. Yes, the strangers will smile at us. Yes, love us, brushing warmly past us on the beach. Fill our hearts with joy, it will happen. The moment has not passed by yet. No, we are not rendered back to our solitude, with only the creaking sound of the fan to keep us from forgetting to breathe the devouring days. When what we want's prostration. Tantric funeral, baby. I know what I am. Dying all over. Endlessly divisible. Smudged fly on the sheets. Not some cosmic vacuum dream consciousness crap, yes. Matter over mind, baby. I'd love to be all moon tiara magic, bitch. But this world is all there is, and if delirium's as close as I'll get to feeling held in the light, so what? I will have done some small, twisted glory to the boys who run, unable to extricate from underbellies their iron effervescence and pity the sun for being all unseeing, unmoved by holes like goldfish in dirt, saying, "Here, enter my abyss." Arpeggios of seething. I don't know much, but I can feel the sea breeze on my skin saying, time to try and live again, to take the rainbow road, and I just want to gorge on stars. So I go outside, bike to some house of the Lord. Stained glass casts rainbow shadows on the cool stone floor, and I gaze up at Michael wielding a huge sword, stepping on Satan's shoulders as he writhes and squirms. And I find I want him to step on me too, Michael. Please, yes, I need you to, Michael. Step on my face and send me to hell.
Okay, so thank you for the readings. Now I'm going to read from a book that I didn't write, but I did edit and publish and do the interior design, so I do know a lot about it. I'm very familiar with the text, but one thing that I can't do is kind of perform in the way that Caroline does. She's a very kind of visceral performer. She likes to get up and like move around and kind of, I don't know, use her body. And also she's from Virginia. She has a very different accent to me. So it's going to sound different, but if this is your first time encountering it, then it's just going to be how it is for you. So I'm just going to read like a page and a half. All right. Bend me into the light. Ever watch me catch the sun, ribbon after ribbon after ribbon, spill into bed through a flung window? You hunting dog, bird dog. What happened while we were facing the mountain? Our shapeless dresses, our theories, champagne doing the solstice justice, ballooning against the backs of my knees, music floating down from where you, baby, know what is what, unlike shit I usually bring to the table. Only exactly, and more than I know how to carry. I spill, then recognize where to put it down. Oyster come and fizz, glint come and see, ham gone raw intentionally. Television flashing from the kitchen. What a blessing the game is from the porch. I could ramble, I could bitch, I could move the furniture. Come and see, baby. Is experimental what you mean? Because what I mean is devotional. This nightgown can be mended, light can be soured, ass raised. What I like is translucent, you know it will dissolve, another shapeless thing, slipping and slipping, pouring and pouring, throwing and throwing, you fucking angel. Welcome to yeast season, light blurring the quartz, welcome to hell. Have the azaleas open to observe. When the neighbor does, she does, playing music. I remember how to be gentle with my teeth, otherwise arching, cleaving. Listen, baby, listen, listen. Bend me like a wrestler. Twin bed will fit me plus whatever lover skips karaoke. Friday is another night. But I tell you what, everyone better cool it. Okay. Right, yeah, ideally you'll see Caroline perform in person because it's better than that. All right, so we're gonna, now you have a sense of what all of the different books are like, we're just gonna have a few clearly rehearsed, but seemingly natural questions. So, Kristen, I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to ask you about the voice of Alora, the narrator, the main character in Lagov, and about the voice of the teenage girl, which you achieved seemingly naturally. How did you get back into that mindset? Because no offense, but you're clearly not a teenager anymore.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I'm clearly not a 16-year-old anymore and I have kissed someone, so thank God. But thanks for applauding. But yeah, I think for the voice, it's like, I think for me, like I've been asked that a lot, you know, and I think the thing for me is that like some of the things that people associate with teenage qualities, like, you know, like really being like emotionally intense or like really liking like certain art and like artists a lot, or even just kind of being like sarcastic and like a little bratty, like I still kind of feel I have those qualities in me, maybe more than like the average like 30 something. So it's like, it's not that hard to sort of just exaggerate them a little steps further. And then you're in this like sort of teenage sort of voice and like mindset. But yeah, I also feel that like if I'd actually written this book like closer to when I was like a teenager, I had like some of the ideas of it before, like especially some of the stuff that happens in her life. I think it would have been a lot different, and I think like it would have been like probably a lot more like, you know, melodramatic type voice, because I think that's actually like the way that like you kind of write and stuff and like feel things also as a teenager.
Yeah, true.
And but you also have this live journal form that the book is in, right? Do you think that helped you in some way to like nail down the voice of a teenager? Like, how did you work your way back? into a teen voice, or did that just come naturally to you?
Funny you asked though. So yeah, I mean, like the live journal format, I think like that I came up with the idea when I started seriously writing the book in 2018, 2019. And it was like a feeling from feeling nostalgic for the early internet, but then like the form actually, like the content can kind of like really fit that form, because it's like, it does kind of it's sort of a short form, so it provides like a lot of propulsive movement for the book in terms of readability. And then also like there's just fun things you can do with it that were like forms of live journal at the time that are in the book, like surveys and sort of quizzes that you take, or even like the current music thing that you heard. So that's like really fun, and adds like a fun aspect of the book. So that's been nice. And like also it's just like, I feel like there were so many people at the time, even though you were kind of doing it alone as like a teenager, where they were kind of just, that's like how you were learning like basic HTML or something. And I don't know, it was a cool experience to have. And I think like I work in tech now, so that there's like definitely a path to that, and any of the sort of like online publishing stuff that I've done before. And yeah, I mean, we talked about this book a lot, obviously, and like knowing that you didn't have a live journal when you were a teenager, but you had similar experiences, right? You know, you were learning to code by making like the Shabby Dollhouse website or something.
Yeah, definitely had a lot of random websites, you know, that you make as a teenager. We didn't have LiveJournal in England, but we had something else called Teen Open Diary, which I think is basically the same thing. And yeah, through basically setting up a million different websites and stuff over the years of being a teenager, like privately learning that kind of language, definitely made it possible to start the Shabby Dollhouse website very easily when that time came around. I was just like, yeah, I know how to build a place that's online. I just need to figure out how to edit a literary journal, which was like obviously the more difficult step. But Oscar, you didn't have that same experience, I wouldn't say, right? You were not as much of an online guy, which I think is reflected in the book, right?
Real guy. Yeah, I was not as on. Well, I was pretty online. I was like, I didn't have a live journal. I grew up in France. We didn't get a live journal over there. Didn't make it. But I was on some forums. I was on a metal forum, and I talked about being a goth a lot. But I've always had like a distance relationship with the internet, I think, and that actually I'm just like thinking about this now. Like I remember when I was in college in like 2008, my friend made me get a Twitter account. I was like, I don't want my real name online or any of this stuff. So I made up a name, and the name was Oscar D'Artois, which is my pen name, which I like kept for later years. But you know, it's like what street were you born on, and what's your first pet? So it's like a made up name. So, and in that way, I think the book also like has like a lot of the language of the internet while seeking to escape, seeking an experience of realness, maybe like a fantasized experience of realness in the world. And it's much more like an embodied poem. Like it's about seeking, you know, trying not to get older, like doing lots of physical stuff for that. Yeah, I would say it's a book that's tragically stuck online, but seeking a physical embodied experience.
And I have this book, The Moan Wilds and The Island, are both book-length poems, just one poem throughout the entire book, which is like, I don't know, in this day and age, perhaps a strange choice. You know, everybody has these shorter attention spans, at least in theory, and it's so much easier for people to engage with something that's on one page. But I feel like, can you talk about the choice to do a book-length haiku, because the form is quite specific, right?
Yeah, I feel like it like encompasses both of those things. Like it's book length, so it's like, oh god, but it's a haiku, so it's like, you know, bit-sized bits of information. I think haikus, and in that way, I think it's very like, still, you know, this is my second book. My first book was like much more probably like bite-sized, like Twitter-friendly poetry, like smaller poems. And then this one, I've always wanted to do a big long poem, you know, like a sort of like a Paradise Lost or like a Season in Hell, or, you know, one of these just like epic in scope things. But it seemed like a really alien form in like the 21st century But then there was these people like Ted Reese who wrote Thanksgiving, or Alice Notley's Descent of a Let, or Caroline Rayner's book that made me see that it was like possible to like maybe have an epic poem in the modern age. And then I think the haiku like was provided that like bite-sized entrance into that form. That was really exciting for me. And so when I started writing the haikus, it was just like as a little workshop series of exercises that we did, and I found it really addictive, and it was just like grew like really fast, and I was like, oh, this is like sort of creating itself. So
can you talk about the form, because it's not the typical 5-7-5?
Oh yes, I say it's a booklet of haiku, which is a lie. It's actually, so like a haiku is like a 5-syllable, 7-syllable, 5-syllable, and then skip a line, I guess, 5-7-5. Instead, this is 5-7-5-7-5-7-5-7-5. So it's like, it's more like, really it's just verses of 5 and 7 syllables. But that like, it's like, has a haiku feel, but it like falls over itself more. So it feels like more, that was part of the way it like the live journal did for you, sort of helped propel the poem forward and made it feel like, yeah, like I can't stop writing this, which was weird experience. I'm not usually it's the other way around.
I want to talk about the yoga aspect of the book. Like, as established, I'm always on my computer. I've never exercised ever. Indoor kid in my life, in my entire life. But you obviously have, the book talks a lot about like yoga. But I think what's like really nice about it is it's like a lot of times when people talk about that, they're all like, it's amazing, positive, like changed my life, self-empowerment. But this, talks about, yoga makes me feel anxious, and like kind of talks about a lot of anxiety around yoga, or, even like aging and the body. And yeah, I really like that. So if you want to talk about more, like making that part of the book too.
It's a big part of it. I don't know. It definitely, it's weird that the way that yoga, which is supposed to be something that like relaxes you, can like generate its own, I feel like people like often experience anxiety about the idea of exercising, but it's funny how it can also has its own rules and like generate like the failure to do it, or the strictures of it, like end up generating their own brand of dread and stuff.
But the book is like, there's a lot of anxiety central to the book, not only about yoga, but the like subheading or the like extra title of the book is haiku for my 33rd birthday, and
right.
I feel like that's tied in, right?
Yeah.
This idea of aging and trying to still look young. Can you talk about that part?
Embarrassing. I guess that's definitely a thing in yoga world. They're like, oh, no, nobody ages if we do this, It's like, I'm not sure. So I guess a lot of the book was written when I was turning 33, and then about 34 actually later. But because I wrote it over 2 summers, and I, my birthday always creates a ton of anxiety for me. And I guess 33 in particular, I for some reason, the idea of like twink death, which is, have you ever seen those pics of like young Leo DiCaprio, like Titanic age, and then there's like current Leo DiCaprio, it's like twink death is a terrible thing. So I was really worried about that, I guess. And for me, 33 was like, that's it, that's the time bomb is there. It's gonna happen to me. And I don't know. But that's what that anxiety. I thought, I had like several ages of hypothetical twink death, but 33 seemed like the last, the final frontier. Anyway, I don't think that's necessarily true, but I did have a lot of anxiety around it. And so that's why, I don't know, I just attempt to have embodied experiences, or do a lot of yoga, I guess, came out of that, for sure. And it's rough. Like, I don't know, I Googled twink death when I was writing this. It's like crazy. You go on Reddit, there's like 19-year-olds who are like is coming for me next year. It's over. How do I retire? It's like, people need to relax. There's like too much pressure. About that.
Well, luckily for everyone here, people are living longer, and you can be a twink for a really long time.
75.
Even age 35, you're still fine. So there's a lot, I guess, like something that we were talking about that seemed tied to both of these books and to the memoirs, or like a question that we were discussing is like the contrast between because we've been kind of traveling around. This is like the 10th reading that we've done, and so I've heard Kristen and Oscar especially like read from their work over and over again, and so it's interesting because the books don't really have anything in common. Like Kristen's book is about looking back to being a teenager and the nostalgia of that time, and Oscar's book is about the future and like the fear of heading towards the future. And this book is very realistic. It's prose. It's like it's written. It's very much placed in reality, if not the current time that we live in. Whereas Oscar's book is like sort of based in fantasy, right? It's like the idea of the island is that it's this dream place that you want to get to and that you may have even been to, but that you like can't quite grasp or hold on to. And so it was kind of interesting because even though the books are so different, it feels also at the same time when I hear them over and over again together, it does feel like they're sort of in conversation somehow. Maybe it's that perspective of being at like a certain time in your life, and you know that you can look forward or you can look backward. But I was just wondering if we could talk a little bit about this fantasy and reality idea, and in particular, Kristen, with your book, if we look back to the early 2000s, like what attracted you to thinking about that time, and how do you, like, what's your sense of that time when you think back to how different it feels?
Yeah, I mean, it's like essentially like a historical fiction at this point, but it's like, I think a lot about it where it's like, I think it's like, the book, spoiler, it's like, it's mostly pre 9/11, and like, I think we kind of like look at that period of time sometimes with like rose colored glasses, like sometimes rightly so. Like I already talked about feeling nostalgia for like the early internet, and kind of just like, yeah, how we kind of were like a little less on our phones, and we didn't have like all this like surveillance that we have on ours now, and like, you know, just like thinking about where we were at, like right now, it seems like a sort of a rosy colored time. But like, I also think that's through like, you know, rose colored glasses. I think there's a lot of stuff like, you know, that sort of things that we were already sort of at, like we were just like kind of building the seeds for, you know. It's like, I think like it's said in the book, like people were thinking like things are just like great, things are like there's no problems in the world, but that like really wasn't true, right? You know, like even the way that I think we talked about things in like the 90s and the 2000s, like we kind of like, I remember growing up in high school and I was like, oh yeah, like racism is over and stuff, and like it clearly like wasn't, and like the way that I think like teens talk about it now is like a lot better. So it's like I think that's what like was so interested in talking about in this time period that's like over 20 years ago. Or it's like, it's really to talk about today, right? You know, it's like you use that tool as like a way to like think about today and like what's changed for the better, what's changed for the worse, and then like also what's just like the same patterns that are happening that are exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like each iteration of the internet. It's like every time there's some new platform, it's like, oh, it's worse. It used to be so much better, right?
Yeah.
There's something like an element of fantasy to that.
Totally.
Like, it's like, oh, we were like building this cool. I mean, did feel like more like utopian.
Yeah, but there are probably
Early
problems
on.
to LiveJournal too, you know. So it's like
Yeah.
Did feel like a little bit like the LiveJournal and the early internet did feel like a little bit more of like a more playful, like weirder, like less commercial internet, but. You know, it's nice to think about as a fantasy.
Yeah. And so in your book, the fantasy is more about this imagined gay beach paradise, much like Robinstown. How much do you think that, like, it feels like through poetry you're like allowed to indulge in that, in the idea of like a complete utopian world? And a lot of the book is like about the tension between the idea of that place or and the reality of your life. Like, I don't know, can you talk about that relationship there between the fantasy and the reality?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, some things you like, yeah, there's an extent to which you have to keep a thing fantasized, right? To keep it alive, to keep the flame of it alive for yourself or something. Otherwise, the reality of things is often kind of like stark. Not stark, but it can just, I don't know. It's like you always build up all these things in your mind and then no, never quite maps on in the same way. But I mean, like, we like need things to like escape to. Physical places to escape to, also like places in the mind to escape to, you know, those are like important to, like, it doesn't have to be like a poetry exclusive, you know, like it's important to be able to go there and like, I don't know, that's like how we like invent pleasure for ourselves probably, right? That's where we like derive it from. It's like to have ideas of be able to imagine where it begins or something, so. Yeah. Pro-indulgence, I guess. But also, like, there's a way in which you sort of set yourself up for disappointment and then, like, you don't really... Like, we did this interview with a friend recently, and she said we ended it with cancel moments of ecstasy, which I think is also true. Like, there's this, like... idea that, like, getting back to this like magical candy time of like an apotheosis of youth and feeling and stuff is like the point of life or something, but it's also like it's always an illusion, right? So there's also, I guess, hopefully some of the point of the poem is helping one accept that it's like is irretrievable, and that's okay, you know.
Right, that's one question that a lot of people have asked as we've done events, is like, does he ever get to the island? Like, is there a resolution? And it's like, no.
No catharsis. Yeah, no, the point is no. It doesn't exist.
Right, it's like kind of that you get to like be in that state and you get to process those feelings, but
yeah.
But longing for something is almost as important as having it.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess I would say the ultimate fantasy and reality with these books is that you spend years writing them and working towards them, editing them. We design them, we like get the covers, we make it all actually a physical object, and then eventually after years we get to come and be with other people and share them, and people get to read them, and now they are a reality. So yeah, we got to the end of the journey. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for coming, and thank you to Jeff and East End Books and Provincetown Library for having us. And yeah, we hope that you will read these books because they're really special, and we're a small press and they wouldn't exist if we hadn't dedicated our entire lives to making them. So
Right.
yeah, enjoy, and thank you so much everyone.
Thank you. Can they see the listing of other tour dates on your website? Is that where
This
they?
is the last one.
This was the last one. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
The plan.
Of the current.
We may do maybe a secret Euro leg planned in the future.
So they can look on the website
Yeah,
in the future to.
ShabbyWordPress.com.
Okay, great. To
yeah,
find
on the
that.
Instagram.
Okay, great.
It's pretty up to date.
Super. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. This was fantastic.
Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Thanks.